Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon. This is Scale Your Sales podcast. Welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, listed number 9 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional in 2021. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn as one of 15 innovative sales influencers to follow in 2021. My next guest is CEO of JB Sales, an author of the best-selling children's book that he wrote with his daughter in mind. I want to be in sales when I grow up. So please welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, John Barrows.
Hey, Janice, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on. I've been trying to get you on for a while. You're a man in demand, so it's a great honor. I'd love to talk about your book. I want to be in sales when I grow up. Now, I know that this was inspired by your daughter, so tell me more about that.
It was a fun project. A lot of people have been asking me when I was going to write a book, and I always felt like a little bit of a hypocrite because I'm not much of a reader. And I also kind of look at it and say, what am I going to write that hasn't already been written about sales? And so back when my daughter was 6 years old, she started selling Girl Scout cookies. And she came to me and she said, Daddy, I have this link here that you can share. I know you have a really big social following. Could you share this link so I can sell some Girl Scout cookies? And I was like, no. And she's like, why not? I said, well, because first of all, that's my audience and I earn that audience. And second of all, why should they buy from you compared to every other kid that's trying to sell them Girl Scout cookies? And she goes, well, what do I need to do? I said, well, you need to put together a little pitch here about why people should buy from you. So she did a little video and then I wrote a blog post on it. Then the next year she did, we were doing door-to-door selling. So we practiced objection handling, did a video on that. And then one thing led to another. And we just kind of together wrote this book. And it was a way for me to kind of connect with her because I'd been traveling all over the world. And when you tell your kid you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a police officer, they understand what those things are because they see them on TV and everything else. But when you tell your kid you're in sales, they kind of look at you sideways, like, what does that mean? And so it was a way for me to connect with her and get out. What I wanted to do is really elevate the profession from the ground level. I mean, I do what I can today to kind of reverse engineer a lot of sales bad habits and teach, adults sales techniques and approaches to try to hopefully do it the right way. But I think if we introduce it to kids as an actual profession and not the default profession, if you will, I think there's a chance for us to really make a difference in a lot of people's lives and the profession of sales itself. So it was a fun project. And the cherry on top is that all the profits go to charity. So we actually don't make any money on it. It all goes to her favorite charity, which she does not want to be in sales when she grows up. She wants to be a veterinarian. So all the money goes to World Wildlife Fund, which is cool.
Brilliant. That's a fantastic story and an experience. And it's interesting, she was actually already in sales, but a lot of people don't realize that they are selling. Every time they negotiate, they're selling. And kids are the best salespeople, aren't they? To get their parents to buy them things, pester power, all of that. They are salespeople naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. They're some of the best sales professionals out there. So they just don't know it yet. But to your point, like everybody's in sales. It's not, I think a lot of people have such a negative perception of sales. But if you really do think of it, everything around us, and that's part of the book too, everything around us had to be sold in some way, shape, or form. I mean, one of the examples in the book is, she's like, well, Daddy, what is sales? And I'm holding a butter dish. And I was like, well, here's an example. Somebody had to sell somebody the materials to be able to make this butter dish. And then whoever made this butter dish had to sell it to the store so that the store could have it on the shelves so that that store could then sell it to us so that we're sitting here with butter in a butter dish and not butter melting all over our hands. So literally, if you think about it, everything around us had to be sold at some point. And all of us are in sales, whether you're, I don't care if you're the most introverted engineer on the planet. Ask the most introverted engineer you've ever come across about something they've built or something they've solved or a problem they've solved, and watch them light up like a Christmas tree and explain it to you. And I've always thought, and somebody told me this early in my career, that sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. So if you believe in what you're quote unquote selling, then it's really just a transfer of that enthusiasm. So think about interviews. When you're interviewing for a job, you're selling yourself. So you're passionate about that. When you're selling your ideas internally at a business, you need to get them to the right people and have them resonate the right way. So that's selling your idea. So if your profession is sales, that's one thing, but we're all in sales if we look at it the right way.
And it's interesting when you reframe really what sales is, and it's just every day. And it's fascinating that you can go through your entire school life and never once is the word sales mentioned, never once. Yeah. And it's kind of criminal because it is the glue between everything we do in our lives. And is there an ambition for this book to be part of the curriculum or to really go into schools to help teachers to explain the world around us?
I didn't have that many aspirations for this book. I think it was more of a passion project with my daughter, with the hope that it'll take off, in other areas and help other people understand what the profession is. I think the next one that I'm thinking about is kind of that next stage of kids in high school, where I think right now, college, the ROI on university, like undergraduate university right now, at least here in the States, is not very high unless you know exactly what you want to do. Like if you know you want to be a doctor, if you know you want to be a lawyer, then great. Go whatever, pick that school, go into whatever debt you need to go into to get that job because you know you want to do it. But for the 90% of kids who go into school at 18 years old and are being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, and have to determine that at the ripe old age of 18, I think that's insulting to have to make that type of a decision that then locks you into again, here in this $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 worth of debt to get a $40,000, $50,000 a year job that you're going to pay back for the rest of your life and probably not do what you really actually want to do. And so the next book that I'm starting to write is basically like, I think I want to be in sales when I grow up. You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to be in sales when I grow up. And then is sales for me, something like that, which is for that high school student who's just sitting there saying, I don't know. And looking at sales as an option to say, hey, you know what, maybe I can go out there with no barrier to entry. I mean, sales is a job you can get anywhere. You don't need a degree in this. And if you go find something you're passionate about, then you go figure out how to sell it and how to interact in the work environment and make some money. And then after a while, after you make a few dollars and figure out what you like and what you don't like, then you could go to school. Yeah, when you determine like, this is what I want to do. Or for that kid who's kind of halfway through college and saying, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. Like, but if I change my major now, my mom's going to be pissed at me and that type of thing. Well, hey, look at sales as an option here for you of being almost like a means to an end in some cases. And so that's the one I'm hoping to put next, which hopefully we'll get into other curriculums and, high school curriculums and such like that. But, my aspirations are not huge. They're just to try to make as much of a difference as I can to the people that pay attention.
I think it's a really interesting point because sales impacts every aspect of business. You can't do sales without knowing about, what the FD is doing, marketing, operations, whatever, even the kind of more technical aspects, depending on what the product and service is. So it's a great education, isn't it? Totally. To actually deciding what area you really do want to work in. And the thing is, what I often say to young people, if you get sales experience, you will always use those skills. They're never lost. You'll always use, even if you become a technical engineer, you'll always use those skills in everything you do. So it almost needs to be like a national service, where everyone has to go through this is real life experience, and it happens to be called sales experience, and you happen to be learning what business is and economics and how to balance the books and customers and why they're so important. You could just do that bit of your education and you would do really well.
I think so. I mean, I think that, I personally think that every kid coming out of university should get a set of, whatever, steak knives, whatever it is that they have to sell to not friends and family, but they have to sell before they can actually get a job. Because just the act of approaching people you don't know and trying to earn the right to talk to them and have a conversation with them and understand what their needs are. And just that compact component of learning that skill itself of how to deal with rejection, get somebody, like I said, to pay attention for more than 5 seconds and not run away from you. Like, those skills are so invaluable, and they're so much better than how to, balance a spreadsheet. And don't get me wrong, it's important to learn how to balance a spreadsheet, but I think there's so much right now that's happening in technology that is taking so much of the technical stuff away from us as people, which is making the interpersonal skills and the soft skills our competitive advantage now, right? I mean, technology has pretty much taken over the majority of what the average sales rep can do right now, sending out templated emails, sending out all these different things. And in business too. I mean, artificial intelligence is taking over so many jobs. And that's why I go back to sales being just one of I think, the better careers to go towards, because say you go into school and you decided a while back that you wanted to be in coding, right? You wanted to be a coder. So you got into it and you learned about being a coder. And then all of a sudden, artificial intelligence decides to look at your industry and say, I think we can do this better. And all of a sudden, there's no need for coders anymore. Or if there is, they're cream of the crop coders, right? You don't need the basic ones anymore. So now if you went to school for 4 years to go into debt to be a coder, and all of a sudden artificial intelligence comes and wipes that away from you, what do you have to do? Now you have to go you have to go re-educate yourself on something. You have to go learn something new. Whereas if you're in sales and artificial comes and disrupts your industry, you can take those skills and go sell something else. You can go into a different industry. So it's the most flexible profession there is. It's the most financially independent one there is. And it's the one that is, in my experience, the most equal from a playing field standpoint. So for diversity, inclusion, all these different things, there's no limit. It's the harder you work, the more you get paid. And so the gender gap and all that different stuff is taken care of by purely a commission structure that says, go get it. And it doesn't matter what color, what race, it doesn't matter what that is. It's an equal opportunity profession. And so I think that's why it's such an important one for people to at least pay attention to and look as an option if they're not exactly passionate or love what they do right now.
Okay, there's quite a few things I've thought about. 1,001 questions, John. Okay, but the first one is the equal opportunity. Mm-hmm. Why is it then that the sales industry has such an imbalance in diversity of the people that are not only, and especially at the senior leadership level, but, generally as sales leader? Why if it's equal opportunity, there must be all of these barriers to diverse people coming into the industry?
People aren't attracted to the profession because of the perception, and rightfully so. Sales historically has been perceived as a kind of sports bro culture, like, let's go get it, let's do a whole bunch of cocaine and, go to the strip clubs and, and go from there. And that is not appealing to anybody other than that profile. And the movies do us no favors with that. You know what I mean? Just continuously perpetuating that stereotype. But the best organizations I've ever come across, the most successful sales organizations I've come across, are the diverse ones. And so I think, depending on the industry, here in this SaaS tech space that I play most in, there's definitely a problem of diversity. I think they're trying to address it in so many ways, but we're working off of so many old school mentalities and approaches that are hard to break. And let's look at it from a generational standpoint. I'm 46 years old. When I grew up in sales, it was a numbers game. It was hit the list. It was go get it, that type of thing. And it wasn't necessarily as much about the customer. It wasn't about, the profession itself. It was about making money. Back in the 80s, it was like pick Wall Street. And that's, you got those stockbrokers just trying to stuff down people's throats. That's not appealing to somebody who has a soul. You know what I mean? That's not appealing to somebody who cares. But I think now, especially with COVID, my hope is that a lot of companies and people have taken a step back to realize what's really important to them. And what I'm seeing right now is the companies that are thriving and really creating diverse organizations and succeeding, even despite the economic downturn and everything like that, are the ones who realize that diversity matters, and they create, and values matter. And those are the ones. So I think we're slowly moving in the right direction, but just like societal wise, you know what I mean? We got a long way to go in general. People of color, women. I mean, I've been speaking on this for a while, and I did a talk about 3 years ago, a webinar called We Need to Talk, and it was about the bro culture in sales. And, I followed up with the people who I had that webinar with, the 3 women who joined me. And I asked them, how much better have we gotten? Have we made any improvements out there? And they're like, well, we made a little improvements. We haven't made the leaps. And I think if you macro that out into society, you see the same thing. So I think incremental improvements, companies who are putting people in front of profits, those are the ones that are going to make the difference and attract the right people to continue to excel. But unfortunately, we still have a long way to go.
So, John, let me ask you, if your daughter, she's 18, if she was joining the industry, what advice would you give her, if any, about being a woman in sales? What would you say she needs to watch out for and do, if anything?
I don't necessarily, look, I think any sales rep, man, woman, it doesn't matter. I think the first and foremost advice that I always give is first of all, understand what your core values are. Too few people, I've always had some core values, but never really wrote them down up until relatively recently. And I think the core value exercise is an extremely important exercise to go through for each one of us, because it centers us on what's really important to us. And then what happens is you can start to look for companies that represent those core values for you. Too often sales reps just get a job because they need a job, and they're going to go find a company that they can get, whatever it is, what it is. I'm getting my commission check and I can make my $150,000 a year. So whatever, it doesn't matter what I'm selling. And that's unfortunately bad mentality to have, because if you're there just to make a paycheck, you're going to be marginally successful at best. You got to believe in what you do to be successful, in my opinion, like genuinely successful. And I know everybody has their definition of success, but to me, it's not success unless I feel good about what I'm doing, right? And so first and foremost, it's the core value exercise, then to look for companies that match those core values, and then to look for products that you feel confident that you could represent. And an easy way to do this is just look at the things that you use in your day-to-day life. Like, what are the tools, technologies, whatever it is that you use that you are passionate about, that you love? Because if you are and you already use it, well, then when you go and work for that company or sell for that company, you have stories to tell, you have personal experiences, you're not pitching anything. So I think that would be the kind of the stepping stone. And then look for leadership to make sure that leadership aligns with those values and plays by those values. And so that to me would solve almost all the gender issues, all those different challenges. And then, as a woman in sales, just realize that you're going to have to probably work twice as hard. I mean, it's the facts. And so don't use that as an excuse. Use that as a motivator. Try to always be respectful of authority. But my challenge has always been, I don't really have much of a filter. So probably for my daughter, I need to tell her to have a little bit more of a filter than I did early in my career. But, prove it. You know what I mean? Prove people wrong. Don't prove them right. I'll tell you that. Don't prove them right, because the more you complain, the more you'll prove them right as far as what their perception of you is. But always come with data. Always do what you're being asked to do. And if you don't think it's the right thing to do, then do something else and compare it to. And so you can bring back to the data to your boss and say, hey, boss, I did it your way and this was the results. I did it my way and this was the results. And if my way is better, then we should have a conversation about this. So I think starting from that point, you'll be in a good position to find the companies that you can fit and grow with.
I get that. So you do say that Sale Better exists with you. Explain that to me.
You can't wait for your organization to invest in you from a learning standpoint. I come across so many sales reps who complain that their company hasn't invested in training, or they don't have the right tools, or they don't have the right tech stack to be able to do what they're doing. Like, to me, that is just a loser mentality, blaming somebody else for not getting trained. The amount of content that is out there right now for free is bananas. It's a Google search away. It's a TikTok search away. You know what I mean? On anything, objection handling, sales process, cold calling, you name it. I think investing in yourself is the most important piece to say. And then those tools and technologies, I didn't have any of these tools and technologies either. You know what I mean? Like 26 years ago when I was in sales, I had a phone book and a phone, and that was it. Email wasn't even all that popular back in the year 2000 when I first started, or 99 when I first started. So I think those are the loser sales reps who are looking for ways to just kind of get by. But if you really want to excel, you have to take your career into your own hands. And not only you have to learn the techniques, but you also have to really be focused on business acumen and understanding what business is and how to speak that language. Because unfortunately, I think that, you know, the fastest way to improve your sales success is to be able to talk the language of business. And so reading business books, you know, listening to podcasts of business owners and stuff like that in different industries and such, so that you can have intelligent, thoughtful, interesting conversations and not just go through your BANT qualification and run your crappy demo with, you know, whatever it is. So I think that taking your own education into your hands is critical.
I'm smiling. I'm thinking, would you say you're a cynical person or a realist?
I'm a realist. I'm more pragmatic. You know what I mean? Like, I try to be optimistic, but I am a realist when it comes to where we are right now. I mean, there's all these, you know, people talk a lot about all this stuff, and I'm like, all right, can we kind of bring that back down to reality? You know what I mean? It's like people who say money isn't, you know, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, the 9 times out of 10 when I hear that, it's somebody who's super rich and has finally realized that money doesn't buy happiness. It's like, well, yeah, go tell that to the single mom who's scraping by every single week. Can we bring this down to reality here? Yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, but it sure as hell gets rid of a lot of unhappiness, you know. And the same thing, it's like people, when they do role plays, you know, they paint this beautiful picture of what a role play should be when you say the perfect thing and all of a sudden money comes from the heavens. And it's like, would you just stop it? That'll never happen in real life. So I'm definitely more of a realist of the day-to-day, what happens. And this is why I don't consider myself a sales trainer. I'm a sales rep who happens to train. I'm out there every day selling myself, because I just don't fundamentally believe that you can really educate people well in today's world if you're not still doing it. So many sales trainers get into sales training because, you know, they're really good at presenting, or they're really good at telling people what to do, but not actually doing it. And these days, if you're not doing it and you're not staying up to date on what's happening right now, it's, you know, it's hard for me to take you seriously. So yeah, not a cynic, but pragmatic and, you know, optimistic as much as I can be, but realistic where, you know, I know we are.
Talking about sales reps, you say that, do you think there's too much of a sales stack involved in the sales process now, that such that you say that, you know, reps are turning into robots?
100%. I mean, and it's not necessarily their fault. It's the company's fault for investing in all these tools. A 2-week onboarding process that not only teaches them all product knowledge, but then tells them the 50 different technologies they have to use to, you know, make a phone call or to track something. And so I think the stats are something absurd that, you know, 37% of sellers' time is spent on admin tasks, or it's even more than that. I forget what the number is, but it's some ridiculous amount. And it's to make sure that things are tracked and whatever, but then you try to over automate it and then you don't know if you're tracking the right things. So I think technology should enable, but it shouldn't start. So for instance, I would start a new hire off with understanding, you know, talking the first month, I would have nothing to do with my product or selling or anything. It would be talking to customers. It would be talking to employees. It would be getting that background and a belief in what they're about to go sell. And then I would say, here's a list of names. Let's start making some phone calls. Forget about tracking anything. Forget about doing anything. Here's the general, you know, who we go after, what our value proposition is, and what the general process looks like. And I want you to manually do it. You know what I mean? I want you to track that email and send this and make that call and write that note down and whatever it is. Cool. Now that you have that, okay, now let's figure out what technology we can implement here that'll take a certain portion of that. And now let's, you know, so it's a stepping stone of technology as opposed to here it all is, good luck. Because then what the reps do is they focus more on the technology and the process than they do the customer.
I'm completely aligned with you. Often when you strip out the technology and unburden salespeople, they can really focus on really the customer outcome and then working back from there, start with the end in mind. So I do love that. So if you're on a desert island, John, what would be the one thing you took with you?
A boat? No, I mean,
are you wanting to get off?
Yeah, hell yeah. I don't like being stuck anywhere. I don't know. I'd probably bring my iPhone mainly because I would have the music. I would need, if I was on a desert island by myself, I would want access to music in some way, shape, or form so I could enjoy the desert island and put myself in the right mindsets of different things. So it's probably what I'd choose is music.
Excellent, excellent. So how can listeners get hold of you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's plenty of different ways. If you want free consulting and free tips and stuff like that, you can hit me up on Instagram. I answer all my Instagram messages. The handle's John, JOHNM as in Michael, Barrows, BARROWS. But also, we just launched we rebranded our company. It's now Sell Better by Jay Barrows. Or JB Sales, and our YouTube channel is got tons of free content on it. So if you go to YouTube, I think it's sellbetter.xyz. So
Yeah.
YouTube/sellbetterxyz, that's a place where you can get tons of content. And obviously hit me up on LinkedIn. I will say this sounds a little bit of a humble brag. It's not, it's more annoying, but I've reached the 30,000 limit on connections for LinkedIn. I have about 400,000 people follow me, but 30,000 connections. So I can't accept any more LinkedIn invitations, unfortunately. But you can follow me there where I put a ton of content out there as well. But those are the areas that probably be the most valuable for people who might be listening to this.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, John. I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, John Barrows.
Thanks so much for having me, Janice. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.